All right, here we go. It's a brand new Flyers Daily for the 28th of October. Flyers will be back in action today at Wells Fargo Center. Matinee hockey on a Saturday in the fall. Beautiful Saturday, too. It's going to be rather warm out as the Flyers are going to take on the Anaheim Ducks. More on them in just a second. Flyers opened up a 4-game homestand on Thursday against the Minnesota Wild. First game back from that 2-game trip where they lost in overtime to Dallas, and then in the final 33 seconds against the Vegas Golden Knights, but they come back against Minnesota. They go up 3-0 in the game, 2 power play goals in the second period of that game from Brink and Couturier. Head to the third with that 3-0 lead. The Minnesota comes storming back, gets within a goal, but the Flyers after that take care of business, and they get a 6-2 win over the Minnesota Wild. So certainly starting off the homestand in fine fashion. 4-game homestand, like I said. 3 of the games will be in the month of October. It's Anaheim today at 1 o'clock, Carolina on Monday at 7 o'clock, and then Buffalo Wednesday at 7 o'clock at Wells Fargo Center. Then they'll head to Buffalo for a home-and-home with the Sabres. But up today, it is the Anaheim Ducks. Flyers Daily is presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. And also this season, Flyers are teaming up with Penn Medicine for the Penn Medicine Assist. For every Flyers assist this season, Penn Medicine and the Flyers are going to be donating 30 pounds of food to local communities in need. So we'll like to see a lot of assists today as the Flyers take on the Ducks. What's the deal with the Ducks? Well, here you go. The Anaheim Ducks right now come in the 4th spot in the Pacific Division of the Western Conference. 7 games played, a record of 3-4-0. They have 6 points. Top team in that division is Vegas, for example, at 7-0-1. And the Anaheim Ducks are -2 in goal differential. 2-2 on the road, coming off a win in their last game in Boston. They're a team that's got a lot of young talent, trying to put it together under a new head coach. That head coach is trying to get players like Trevor Zegras to be more responsible all over the ice instead of just an offensive player. They've won their last 2 games, both on the road. They beat Columbus 3-2 in overtime. Then they beat the Boston Bruins 4-3 in overtime in that one. What's the deal with the Flyers? Glad you asked. Here you go. Flyers coming off that win against Minnesota. Right now, the Flyers sitting in the 2nd spot through 7 games in the Metropolitan Division of the Eastern Conference. A record of 4-2-1. They've got 9 points. They're 1 point back of the Rangers, who have also played 7 games. Flyers are 3-0 at home. Nice to see the home ice advantage. And they are +6 in goal differential, and they're coming off that win over the Minnesota Wild. So the Anaheim Ducks, like I said, they've got some good young talent, some high marquee type players, and obviously Trevor Zegras is one of those guys. And we'll see how he fares under this new coach that wants to preach some defense. But leading the way for the Anaheim Ducks right now in points is Ryan Strome. He's got a goal and 6 assists, 7 points, point per game right now. Frankie Vatrano's got 6 points, 5 of them goals, only 1 on the power play. Mason McTavish has 6 points. Troy Terry's got 5. And Leo Carlson played in 3 games. And I think we've heard the term when it comes to Leo Carlson already of load management. I don't know if it's the traditional load management of the NBA, where you're not, I think it's more young player, don't overwhelm him, play him, put him up in the press box, let him take on this big task of becoming a player in the NHL at a very young age in bite-sized pieces. Don't shove the whole piece of pizza in his mouth. So we'll get a look at Leo Carlson probably this afternoon as well for the Flyers and the Anaheim Ducks. For the Flyers, leading the way in points, it's Travis Konechny. He's off to a great start. Boy, does he look fantastic. 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points in 7 games. Got a power play goal, 2 shorthanded goals. He's playing over 16 minutes of ice time. He's a +2. I mean, I don't know what more you could say about Travis Konechny and the way he has started out this year. He's just been excellent for the Flyers. A great snipe in the last game to open the scoring. And he's a player that they're going to look to for offense and, slightly easier offense from time to time. A guy that can do what he did against Minnesota, score off the rush. And, he's just such a dynamic player at this point in his career and off to a great start, really picking up where he left off last season. The other Travis is one that's maybe shocking a lot of people. I know John Tortorella yesterday in his media availability had some pretty high praise for Travis Sanheim. And those two last year seemingly couldn't get on the same page fully. It was a tough year for Travis Sanheim. It was a down year for Travis Sanheim, a lot of pressure with the new contract that kicked in this summer and the no trade clause. You heard his name out there, obviously, in trade speculation. And all he's done is come in and control everything he can control. He can't control all the stuff that was out there. He can't control last year. It's all in the rear view. And it's a very mature move to come in this year and just control what you can control. And he has done exactly that. In 7 games played so far, Travis Sanheim has 8 points. He's got a goal and 7 assists. He's been a catalyst creating offense from the blue line. He's been a catalyst defending. And I think really he's been great in the neutral zone, attacking plays in the neutral zone. I was talking to somebody last night at my son's hockey game, and there's obviously more strength there in his upper body, but he seems more aggressive and more decisive, making the decision to attack a player when he's vulnerable instead of kind of half making that decision. You see that decisiveness in his aggressiveness, if that makes sense. And it's paying huge dividends. I mean, right now, if you look in the NHL at the leaders in average time on ice amongst players, at the very top of the list is Travis Sanheim. He's also moving to the right side as a left shot player. Played a lot of right side in junior, played a little right side in the NHL, but he's moving over to the right side here with the Flyers. He's averaging 26 minutes and 12 seconds of ice time. I mean, that's more than Drew Doughty, who seemingly never comes off the ice. Doughty's over 26 minutes. Mike Matheson's over 26 minutes. Seth Jones, John Carlson, Miro Heiskanen. Travis Sanheim is leading the NHL in average time on ice, and he's also got the 7 points. So he is off to 8 points, a phenomenal start. If you'd have told me last year Travis Sanheim will be leading the NHL in average time on ice, I might go, uh-oh. But no, he's having a great start to the season. You know who else is? Cam Atkinson and Sean Couturier, 2 players they didn't have last year. Each have played all 7 games. Atkinson's got 4 goals, 3 assists, and 7 points. Sean Couturier's got 2 goals and 4 assists for 6 points, averaging over 19 minutes and 45 seconds of ice time. He's been a revelation. I'm frankly stunned at where the 2 players are right now, 7 games in, because it didn't seem like there was any kind of original adrenaline and then a drop off and then trying to get their game in order. Both came in very, very organized in their game. Joel Farabee also 3 goals and 2 assists, had a beautiful assist to Bobby Brink in that last game on that rush attempt on the centering pass. Brink, obviously, the 2 goals. And we'll see really a guy to keep an eye on, I think, today is Owen Tippett. He scored his first goal of the season when Cam Atkinson sprung him on that breakaway against Minnesota to give the Flyers a 4-2 lead. He's got a goal and 3 assists for 4 points. But Owen Tippett's a guy that when he scores and kind of breaks out of a scoring slump, he could give you 5 in 4 games or 6 goals in 5 games. He's a very streaky scorer. And the thing about Owen Tippett is, even though he hadn't scored before that Minnesota game, I just think he's been such a net positive player. The way he is driving offense, the way he's passing the puck, the way he is seeing the ice and defending. I mean, you could say that across the board, but Owen Tippett, sometimes you have guys on your team that you go, if they're not scoring, what's the point of them being in the lineup? That's not been the case with Owen Tippett. He is a scorer, but it's much better playmaker, I think, than we thought, but also a player that can drive offense because of the gift he has of being such a big, strong, powerful skater. So keep an eye on Owen Tippett. We'll see if that goal gets him going and gets him hot for a little period of time and start putting the puck in the net a little bit more. We'd all love to see that. So Flyers Anaheim today. I wanted to get into a DM that I got on Twitter in this episode. We have a little extra time. And I got this DM from Andy. I won't say his last name because I'm not sure if he wants it out there. But he sent me this the other day. This is he sent me on Thursday. He said, Jason, is there any way you can ask Torts diplomatically why bring up the vets instead of Yinning and Adard? To me, it's hypocritical to say we're going to play the kids and then bring up Victor Mete and Louis Belpedio. Do you agree? So I saw that question from Andy, and I said, okay, let me think about this for a minute. Let me just kind of look into it. I mean, we've seen a game this year already. I remember talking about it on the pregame show where the Flyers dressed 10 players that were 24 and under. So they're playing a lot of young players. And here was my response to Andy. I said, I believe, I hadn't talked to Torts, but I believe the thinking is that they already have two young players on the blue line, and Cam York, who's 22, and Igor Zamula, who's 23, and both are pretty raw. Meti is a guy they want to see what they have in him because he's only 25. He's played 247 NHL games. And, if they can get him straightened out, he could be either an asset that they keep or an asset that they turn into an asset and get something in return. Now, he was hurt a ton last year, which I said to Andy in my reply. He said I only played 17 games. He said, I'm sure Torts also doesn't want to see 4 D-men in the lineup under 23 because of the effect that can have on the environment in the D zone and for your goalies. Eventually, poor defensive zone structure and the environment for a goalie, it eventually brings the goalie to that level. Even if the goalie's playing great. Look at last year, for example. The first 12 games of the season, the Flyers were 7-3-2. Carter Hart was unbelievable. In his first 8 games, he went 6-0-2 and had a .946 save percentage. But eventually, that D zone structure, the lack of good structure in the D zone, the amount of shots and high quality chances, eventually that grabbed Carter and brought it right to that level with it. That'll happen to any goalie. There's nothing you can do about it. You can battle it for as long as you can, but eventually the environment's going to win out and drag the goalie down to it. And that's what happened. So I imagine you don't want to put even more just kids in the lineup on the blue line, especially, which is the hardest position in hockey to get good at the NHL level, and kind of break down your D zone structure and drag down your goalie along with it. And beyond that, I said to him, he wants the team to play as many, quote, meaningful games as possible because evaluating players in the NHL based on meaningless games could be fool's gold. So you want to stay in the mix as long as you can. I don't know where this is going with the Flyers. I don't. They're off to a good start. I'm not ready to make some big proclamation that they're a wild card team or they're going to the playoffs or that their wheels are going to fall off and they're going to end up with the 4th worst record in the league. I'm not ready to make any proclamation on either way. But John Tortorella, and I completely believe in this as well, wants his team to not only play meaningful entire games that are coming up that mean something coming in, but also not get behind in a game where that game, the last half of the game, the last 30 minutes of game clock becomes meaningless because you're down 5-1. So you don't want to have a half a game where you can't put players in positions to evaluate them because the game becomes meaningless and everybody lets their foot off the gas. That doesn't help the evaluation process. That doesn't help guys develop either. Matter of fact, I think that is counterproductive. I think that actually hurts guys because playing without pressure, it's like, what's the point? You want to play when it means something. So I think that's kind of where the thinking was on that. That's my read on it, not based on talking to Torch or anything else. But you already got 2 young guys on that blue line. Putting 4 young guys on that blue line, that's a big ask. That's a tough way to go out there and try and, limit the opposition. They're doing a really good job now. I think you have the good mix. You have to have young guys and you have to have some veteran guys. You can't just put the kids in the lineup. But Andy, I thank you for your message. And I want to get to another one actually too, because I love corresponding with you guys. So you can always DM me at Jason Myrt on Twitter, JasonMyrt. You can email me as well, jason.myrtetus, Myrtetus @gmail.com. Fuzz sent me this. He said, I just read the article by Greg Wyshynski on ESPN. It was about the Flyers' new era of orange. He said it was about the new era of orange and how the Flyers are selling the rebuild. He said, I'm a Flyers fan from North Carolina. How do you think the fans and the city in Philadelphia are taking the rebuild? At the time when I replied to Fuzz, I hadn't read the article. I've read it since. And my thought on that is this, and this is what I said to Fuzz. I think there are some fans, in my response, I called them educated because they agree with me, educated fans that understand how a proper rebuild works. But I also think there's a very vocal group that think a rebuild only works by tanking and playing kids. Like I said before in my response to Andy, they played 10 kids in a game, 24 and under. You can't just play the kids. I think Emil Andre is best served to be with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. I do. I think that's the best place for him right now. I don't think he's ready to play every day at the NHL level. I'm glad that he got some games at the NHL level so he can take that to the Phantoms and know what it takes when he comes back up, hopefully for good. But some people just want the team to lose because they want the shiny toy at the very top of the draft. And as I went through in the episode the other day, David Pasternak's one of the great players in the NHL, 25th overall. McAvoy, 14th overall. You look all over. Braden Point, 3rd round. Nikita Kucherov, late in the 1st round. You got all these players. There's good players that aren't at the very top of the draft. And that's how you cannot just lose. I think for the most part, the city is taking the rebuild very in the right manner. I think people aren't getting crazy with their expectations, at least not yet. And I think that they're seeing that there's probably more pieces here than we thought. I always say it's never as bad as you think it is, and it's never as good as you think it is. It's probably somewhere in between. You're not as far off as you think you are, and you're maybe not as close sometimes. They have a lot of forward pieces. A lot of it depends on the blue line. Keith Jones has talked about it in some availabilities that he's had in interviews he's done, that they got to build that blue line. They got Bonk this year on the draft. He's still a few years away. He's up in London playing with the London Knights, having a good start to the season with Denver Barkey. But you got to build that blue line because having the big, good, strong, deep blue line is the only way you make it through round after round in the playoffs. It's just a fact. That's just the fact of the equation. So they have to build that part up. There's still work to be done. Yeah, you have some good young pieces in Cam York and others. We'll see how Ronnie Attard continues to develop, Adam Yinning, Emil Andre, and others, and Bonk, obviously. And we'll see where they go. Obviously, next year's draft, you still have Michkov coming up front, along with Cutter Gauthier and some others. But, we'll see how the fans kind of go through the peaks and valleys of a rebuild. It's easy to be on board with the rebuild right now because the team's winning games, even though that makes some people miserable. So it's easy. You're not turning it on and seeing your team get blown out. So you're satisfied at the moment, satiated. But we'll see how it plays out. Look, going up and down in sports, that's part of the game. That's part of it. Having the highs of sport and the low, that's what it's all about. That's why when you win something, it feels really good because you know what it's like to lose. So thanks to Fuzz as well for the DM. Great stuff from Fuzz and Andy. Great stuff from the Flyers and the Ducks coming up today. Well, will it be great stuff? Well, we'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll break it down. So everybody, enjoy the hockey today. We'll talk to you tomorrow on a brand new Flyers Daily.